Hey everyone, and welcome to the March 2022 episode of Hi LBC, a production of the Long Beach Collective Association in partnership with Cannabis Capitol. And we're proud tonight to have a panel discussion on getting a product or making it into the retail space of the regulated, best practice, compliant cannabis industry. We're going to get some perspective from what we consider multi-state operators, but we're also going to be talking mainly about the California market and in specific ways that trend. So I want to say thank you to the panel tonight, and I'm going to introduce them now, and then we can give them a round of applause for being here if you don't mind, and then we'll get into some questions. So to my right, I have Charles, who's the retail buyer for Cookies Maywood, which is one of the... And next to him, we have Change, who is the brand ambassador of Cannavis Syrup, which is in 3 states, a multi-state operated brand and making great strides in that space. And then, finally, we have George from Mericana Dispensary. He's the founder and principal of the dispensary and someone who's operating here in the city of Long Beach as part of the Long Beach Collective Association membership. And I should tell you, my name is Chris Egger, and I'm a host here at Cannabis Capitol for the Pop Politics podcast, and I'm also a proud LBCA member. So if anyone's here tonight and you're not a member, I would say join. We do a lot of best practice, professional networking. We also have programs like this where we develop peer-to-peer and business-to-business content that's meaningful and impactful. And then finally, the mission of the LBCA is to promote and propagate, a really healthy, robust, regulated cannabis industry in the state of California for the many years and decades to come. So thank you to Pam and Steven for putting tonight together and the team over there. And I'm just going to dive right in. Charles, there is a lot of brand energy here in the room tonight, and everyone's real familiar with cookies, but tell me, I first knock on your door, how does a brand enter even into the dialogue over at Cookies, and how do people get started with you?
Well, thanks for having me, but I guess it's a multi-part question, I guess, a bit. All cookies kind of do their own thing, to an extent. There are certain ones that partner with others, but just specifically for my store, let's say, a lot of times I've just started relationships with people. I do try to talk to people as they come in if I do have time, and a lot of times too, people even just send me metric samples and then their pitch email. I diligently try to go through all of that stuff as much as I can, because you never know what could be coming. But I think tenacity too. I think a lot of people, well, I'll be real with you, a lot of brands have come at me, and it's the ones that kind of keep coming and keep demonstrating what they can do really for each other. I want every partnership to work. I really try to look out for my staff because at the end of the day, I'm not really selling it. But those kind of things are I look for initially.
And we're going to dip into this question a little bit. It's a very generalized topic. You're right, multi-part. But I should ask you, tell us a little bit about Cookies, right? How does it function? Because I was surprised to hear that it's not aligned on every store. Is it, Zoomies was an action sport retailer that a certain amount of inventory was venue specific. Is that the way Cookies works? Because we of course have the whole Cookies lineup of products, everything from, of course, flower, which is really what Cookies is known for, but also too growing concentrate lineups, vape lineups, pre-rolls, blunts, really you name it. There's even cordyceps caps and things with cannabis with them as well. So there's a lot of different ways that Cookies has branded itself and released products into the cannabis product market, and they also have the lifestyle component to it as well, right? So the stores do get some specific drops, like we have some specific LA geared merch. Same thing, I'm sure, at the other stores up north and everything. But other than that, we do have other brand partners, to round out the menu. I think it's important, we definitely highlight Cookies products because they are top notch. But we do have a well-rounded menu, in my opinion. So that's important. And is it specific to the local stores in each community? Is there a buyer or someone on site who navigates that channels?
Well, I mean, Cookies is a large organization, so to an extent, like, there's the headquarters, we like to call it, right, which is like Cookies headquarters corporate, and they definitely work in partnership with all the stores for, special drops and such, We had the Khalifa Kush drop a couple weeks ago, and that was coordinated alongside, our headquarters support, and also in partnership with the, compound and, continuum and things like that. So it's a multi-part thing. We work together to these big drops, but I can bring stuff in as well too. So.
Perfect. So let's get into it, man. 3 states, I think you told me earlier, but tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Cannavis syrup and kind of where your origins are and where you're at today.
Thanks, Chris. I'm the VP, original co-founder of Cannabis syrup. We're headquartered here in California, but we also operate in New Mexico, and we're about to launch in Colorado and Michigan this year as well. So, yeah. We make a THC syrup. We really focus on just one niche product and kind of just emboldening that over the years. We have 10 flavors, goes from 300, 600, 1,000 milligrams, and we operate here in Long Beach, and our retail market cap is around like 250 stores here in California, another 100 in New Mexico. Yeah.
So, tell us, and this is a real basic starting point for all of us. If you were going to be talking to someone who's just getting into the business, or maybe someone's been into it, but they're like, wow, dude, 100 stores, that's pretty incredible. How did you get your foot in the door in each of those stores? What is it that it takes to get there?
Man, well, luckily for us, we're like, I consider ourselves a legacy brand, so we've been pushing this brand for about 10 years now here, almost in California. So a lot of the people that work at the stores, from the bud tenders, the security guards, up to the managers, the buyers, they're generally familiar with our brand for the most part, so that really helps. But honestly, it just takes time, if you want to get to 100 stores. I mean, it definitely doesn't happen overnight, you got to just start with one store at a time. So
Charles mentioned tenacity. You've now mentioned, a synonym of that, right? So what does that tenacity look like to you? I mean, how many times will you,
I actually, knock on the door? Tenacity is I guess, a good way to put it, but I don't really like the word tenacity, because tenacity sounds like, to me, someone's a fucking asshole. And there's a real fine line of not pissing off a buyer. I'm sure both of you guys could attest to that,
That's true.
So when, you got to be real careful with your tenacity and where you aim it at people. But I think it really just takes being a real person, The best advice that I ever heard was like, don't be a salesman, just be a real ass person, That's really what the industry is all about. It's a small community, there's only 800 or so stores in the state. A small sales rep eventually will hit them all real fast and be like, shit, do it again, So it's like you're gonna see the same people, So really just come at them as a normal human being. I'm the VP of the company, and I'll go down to either one of these dudes' stores with one of my sales managers just to be like, yo, what's up, And just like humanize the brand. I think that's, what I would say, it starts at the top of the company. Like if you got ownership group, higher ups that aren't willing to have that connection as well for your brand and get out there and show face for their own brand, I think that speaks leaps and bounds when you're first getting started, especially.
And George is kind of nodding over there in agreement. But George, so let's talk about it. You have change. You have the Cannavis syrup in your stores as a product line, and I'm certain you've kind of sat through a few product pitches before.
Just going off of change. When I first started retail, I kind of wanted to meet the people that I already know. I'm not going to venture outside of anyone. And I was really tight-knit to my community. So first off, I started with the LBCA. And I was like, who and what people, individuals can I meet there? change was, like you said, real. So right off the bat, I was just like, dude, I come into the store, come, let me talk to you. You know, all these other companies who do syrup and who want to sell you everything, they push and they push and they push. Yes, as a buyer, we're looking at profit margins, but we want a real person. I want someone that I can actually talk to. Alec from THC Design, I can give him a phone call, text him. He's gonna respond to me instantaneously. You know, it's the relationship that you do build with your buyer, with the retail manager, with the owner, whoever it might be. But it's the relationship that matters. And to me, that's the reason why I love the LBC, because I got to meet so many individuals, and that's why I was able to move my store in the right direction.
I got to ask you, how many SKUs do you have in your store right now? I mean, just, you know, on an estimate or guesstimate.
1,000?
Right? And by the way, that's the beauty of the cannabis industry. There's so much revolution going on.
Because just off of THC Design, you can do, damn, it's higher. There's like, off an indica, there's like 1 million of them that they have. You know, so they have so much.
And variety is.
And the variety from the consumer, you know, depending on what demographic or what geographic area you're at, you're gonna base it off your consumer. Some people want to get just concentrates. Some people just want edibles. Certain areas just want straight flower. And you're gonna see off your POSs and off your analytics what areas are going to do better than others. And
then where you want to varietize or expand. And, you know, I got to ask this question of you, George. So we're going to start shifting into topics, guys, and I'm going to bounce in between people. Well, let's get into the idea of delivery, too, as a menu and building development. Do you have different thresholds for getting into your model for delivery versus, like, shelf space and dedicated shelf space?
Great question. Well, when it comes to delivery, yes, we can do delivery, but we actually haven't started.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Because meaningfully, it's an unlimited menu board. A lot of people will say that, you know, you can have more than your fair share of products when you're doing delivery, whereas, you know, there's minimal shelf space in a retail location, and that changes that dynamic of it, right?
Yeah, correct.
I don't know, Charles, you seem to be nodding over there. Do you have an opinion or weighing on that? You know, does the products test and delivery before it maybe makes it onto the floor?
Well, I mean, Cookies Maywood doesn't have delivery currently. Really, my previous shop I was at did, and I think with delivery is tricky, right? Because you can go a few different ways. You can have a very basic menu where people are familiar with those products. You can just go like maybe to like analytics, like top 5, and just like stock that stuff. Or you can make the decision if you really want to have a well-rounded menu with fun and exciting things, but how do you get people to try that stuff if they don't come in the shop and look at it? You know, do you have a call center where you have to have people, you know, answering all those questions over the phone? Do you have, you know, product video build-outs on your website? So delivery is tricky, you know, it definitely is.
Okay, so this is where I wanted to say I was going to shift into some questions about, we talked about consistency, maybe not tenacity, maybe we'll say consistency change.
Yes.
But one of the things you said that Cannavis is known for, right, is the quality and consistency of the product, that its reputation is there. You know, how important do you think consistency is then in the evolution of your brand? As you said, it takes time.
I think consistency is everything. You can lose customers real fast in this industry. If the customers are real quick to be like, oh, I got a bad batch from my favorite brand, and now I don't fuck with them anymore. So it's really important to QC your stuff. Is extremely important. So consistency is everything. And that all starts with your SOPs on the manufacturing side. And then that translates into how you do sales and distribution as well. But consistency definitely is important to maintain leverage in the industry.
And so, Charles, that's one of the things you were talking about with consistency. I guess it's a number of times you've encountered that brand being introduced to you, but I would imagine the product and its qualities and consistencies over that period too.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I should say, you know, tenacity, because I'll tell somebody my thoughts on their product. You know, I'll be not really polite. I'll be real with them about it. You know, but I'll be like, hey, let's talk more. Like, let's, you know, keep coming. Like, let's talk. Let's see what we can work out. But absolutely, I mean, that's just so real. I mean, as a retailer, you hear it about, you know, everything from defective carts to, you know, a bad batch. Just one can just set you back. a lot of times, even in meetings, you know, with people coming in perspective, like some of my favorite things to look at is pre-rolls, because I will just cut it open right there on the spot and look at
Savage. That's a pro right there.
So
Check it. Who's got a flower company? Let's do a test right now. Who got a flower company? Let's go.
No, I mess with THC Design. I mess with you guys. That's, you know. So yeah, consistency, quality. You know. Yeah, that's
That's
it's
the biggest
everything.
failure
It's
I've heard for a
everything.
lot of brands, right? Is great introduction, great face, but you scaled, you weren't able
growing
to
too
maintain.
quick. Yeah, growing too quickly or not planning that expansion. And I think I also inquire how many shops people are in, because how many shops can one sales team or one team really, you know, show support to? That's a huge thing for me. I mean, like you said, one rep can hit a lot of shops, but how many shops are they really showing love to? Because
That's huge, actually.
you know, like
Because we're based in SoCal, and we do really well with the day-to-day brand support for all of our shops, PADs, educations coming in, giveaways, fucking snacks, whatever.
Right, brand
whatever it
connection,
takes, you
brand
know?
activation
Y'all
within
know
the
the
venue.
struggle.
lanyards go a long way. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
swag.
All right, so George down there, and I want to get into this one with you too,
You
the
will.
consistency and quotient, right? So the idea right now that we're talking about here, have you had some pleasant surprises? Have you had some bad experiences in that area with brands that you've brought into the shop?
Yeah, just not gonna name any, but like
No, please don't name it, but talk about it in
But no,
general,
but how-
so someone from a brand can
exactly-
understand what your
exactly
frustration was.
how you're saying right now, like a cart. You know, depending on size of your company, if you start growing too big, well, the quality might decrease. You start getting faulty carts. The consumer starts to complain. They want a refund. They don't like the taste. You really want to be consistent on everything that you do, especially on your brand, because the customer you will lose the customer, and if you lose the customer, then you're gonna lose me, because that customer's not gonna come to me anymore.
How forgiving is a consumer in that case? You know, I've had leaky cartridges before, and I was always like, "Do I have to deal with this?" And I stopped using, you know, that style of pen, you know. And so, do you find that there's a threshold for consumer interaction with, like, when the consistency isn't there? How unforgivable is that?
If the consistency isn't there, then it will be forgivable if and only if the brand is reputable, and those tend to be brands that have their own batteries. Other 510 thread brands who mess up on their carts, no forgiveness. Go to another battery. Go to another cart, because it's a universal battery. But if you have a brand that has a good battery, they tend to be a little bit more
So by the
forgiving.
time it's touching your consumer, if the quality and consistency isn't there, you find that to be the kind of the line in the sand for you not wanting a brand to be in your facility.
Well, just coming into that, okay, I'd say I'm not going to be forgiving for more than 5 times. Me as personally, no more than 5 times.
Yeah.
And that's, if my consumer has come to me back 5 times, then I'm cutting off that brand. It's a harsh market, like you said.
Amen. And by the way, people need to hear that. I would think that it's meaningful to know how important that is to the success of this industry and to the success of your product in this industry. So I want to get into something now, guys. It seems to me, Charles, that this will be a question that you'd be able to start off with. You know, branding and how a product. You know, so someone comes in with fire nuggets, right? They drop them on your desk, and you're checking them out, and you're looking at them, right? That's one thing. But how important is brand identity in the process of getting in front of you and getting your attention?
It's important, definitely, and I found that kind of, you know, waxes and wanes based on the type of store it is, you know, the market it's at. But brand identity is real. Like, you have to have that. You know, people. There's so many products out there these days, right? And you do kind of need some background, some story, some color to push yourself ahead, and that bleeds into your packaging design, your swag, even your PAD booths, things like that. Like, it is important because people get set in their ways with cannabis and stuff like that to a degree. I mean, you know, to get people to try new stuff, especially with the way times are and the way the prices are for things, like, you gotta bring something interesting, you know, and it doesn't have to be crazy extravagant, just like something different even about your bag. Like the way we display bags at Cookies, you know, it's kind of got to pop. it's got to be quality, but it's got to come correct and catch the eye. It can't just be some too muted colors. That's not what it's about. It's got to really roll. So.
And so change. I mean, you're going into 3 new markets, right? New Mexico, Michigan, and what was the other one? Was
Colorado.
Colorado, correct. And so you have the California legacy, and you have a brand developed in California. But do you agree with Charles? Is the brand? Do you have pride in the way it's presented into these new markets? Is the branding a big part of that?
Absolutely, and we apply the consistency from what we're doing out here, so it applies out there. Same way of what Cookies is doing. The Cookies logo in California is the same Cookies logo in Oklahoma and Israel, and they got similar store build outs. So we do similar things. We try to roll out, and it depends on state laws and what they allow tincture milligrams, because we're a tincture, so other states is higher or lower. But we do try to keep similar packaging, and that's all the effort, to be honest. Like, if you don't put effort into that, you know what I mean?
Fair enough. Fair enough. If first impression is
step
everything,
one,
right? First impression can
absolutely.
be everything, right?
100%.
So, George, I got to ask you, so that you hear these gentlemen talking about it, do you agree? I mean, does the way a product present visually and brand identity-wise important to you?
Yes and no. You would say the hardcore consumer is not going to care for the packaging. They know what they want. 90% of the average individual loves the packaging. They want aesthetics. They want something that's nice on the eyes, something they can hold, present, show off. Colorful packaging makes the best difference. I like to, normally, me and my inventory manager, we like to grab the products and put them in our shelf space before we even do anything, just to see how it looks, see if it looks appealing to the eyes. So it's what the eye sees,
And how does that translate also too? So for your shop, right? When brands are coming in there and activating in your space and stuff and doing different things, I mean, what do you look for from brands? Do you want POP display? Do you want materials or educational? I mean, what really helps you create an environment that your consumer enjoys?
Going back to change, being real, he was able to speak to me and have a complete conversation of what I want. The consumer wants this. He's gonna help me out with it. Hey, you know what? Let's do a PAD, a patient appreciation day for the consumer. Okay, let me help you out with that. What do you need from me? It's a conversation between both of us going constantly, just every single day. And when we look at our analytics, or when I'm looking at the analytics, he's asking me the question, hey, what's selling, what's not selling? What SKU isn't selling? What can we do for you now? So it's having that conversation with the retailer, the buyer, and the manager to go forward. And the consumer loves it. They're like, okay, great, we can get this now. You know what, they're offering this now.
So any brand that's engaging beyond just making the sales call and hopefully, but actually engaging with you in the relationship with the consumer
Correct,
through that.
correct. Those are the only brands that I have in the store. People that actually engage with me. Other than that, I'll read the email, you're out.
So we're going to keep moving through these topics, and I hope it makes sense to you. What is it that you look for in a product? Like, you talked about a pre-roll, gets cut right open, you're looking at the content. Talk a little bit about concentrate, talk a little bit about flower. What are things that you think stand out when you see a new product?
I mean, I kind of want to go back to one thing that George touched on.
Please do, by the way, please do.
When launching a new product, I always request staff samples. I think that is one of the biggest things for me as a buyer, and then educations, because I firmly believe that I'm not really into it when people are just off the bat like, okay, let's do a BOGO. Or let's run percentage off or something. I believe in your product enough to bring it on. Let's make sure it's priced right out the gate, and then let's get the staff excited about it. Let them try it, let them form their own opinions so they can have a genuine, real interaction with somebody that comes into your shop, right? So that's the first thing. But to what you're just saying there too, As far, what were you saying?
Well, the question about like, what is it that pops out to you when someone's
Oh.
showing you for the first time? Whether you talked about cutting open a pre-roll, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, well, like, yeah, I mean, it starts with the packaging. You know, it's going to get displayed somehow, some way. I've actually been like, no, I will not take that on strictly because it's packaging. You know, people putting an eighth jar in a box like this big and stuff. Like, it's just like, I can't, you know, like, it's, you, like, I'm glad you're excited about it and stuff, but it just doesn't make sense. So it does start it there. And then what the product is, what's the quality, what's the background on its production, its cultivation and stuff matching its price, you know, because there's different price points. There's, you know, carts out there that dirt cheap, you know what I'm saying? There's a consumer that wants that. There's somebody that's about that. And that's fine, but it's got to be priced appropriate. But if you come at some top shelf level, you come at some like super high end, 6-star, full melt, greatest rosin in the world, like, you got to bring it for its price, you know what I'm saying? Especially with these days, I mean, I don't think anything's off limit to have the prices come down on it. I mean, there's so many people out there making things.
Are you a fan of under promise, over deliver when it comes to those qualities?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I want to try it and get a clear understanding of it, and you know the background on it, and get to know the people behind it too, because that's what's going to sell it.
So, Change, to your point, when you're going in and introducing cannabis to somebody, you know, what are the three things maybe that you point to them about? What are the three keys? Is it the quality, the consistency, and the legacy? I mean, how is it that you go about defining that?
Yeah, really. Honestly, our product is a little bit higher on the price end in comparison to our competitors' products. So for us to get the extra $5 of what the competitor is charging, it's all about that relationship. If Charles called me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, send staff samples, everything new that you got, and I want you guys to come down here and do an education and fucking bring a food truck or whatever," I'd be like, "Shit, guys, we got to do this." You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really meeting the demands of what our partners want and understanding their needs too. I think a lot of times, you know, a lot of us here in this building have worked in all facets of the industry. So you begin to identify what other people's struggles are, and you know, how you could come in and help maybe alleviate some of that, you know. You know, in the state of the industry, a lot of brands are getting a little bit more cutthroat, cutting back on PADs, being a little bit stiffer on refunds for stuff that doesn't sell, you know. But our approach is, hey, if something doesn't sell, it's give it to your bud tender and we'll give you something for free to replace it that will sell, you know. Like, for us to exist in 250 stores, like, that's kind of the mentality that you kind of have to have, you know. You know, think about the embodiment of a larger company like Nordstrom has amazing customer service. You know, you could buy a suit from Nordstrom and go to a wedding and like split that shit, you know, roll through mud, come back the next day and be like, "Yo, Nordstrom's, can I get a refund?" And they're gonna give it to you, you know. And like, honestly, so like, when I look at what I'm gonna embody as customer service, because that's first and foremost. Like, you could have the greatest product, but if you have the shittiest customer service, like, they're just gonna replace you for someone else. And then on the other end, you could have the cheapest stuff, but if you're not willing to do the things that it takes, and you're just riding on, oh, I have the cheapest shit, like, that's only going to take you so far too, you know. So it's really about meeting whatever the demands are, and be willing to do it within reason, I think. But that's kind of our mentality.
And so, George, I'm going to get into this with you really quick. They both have mentioned now staff samples, right? So from that perspective, how important is the bud tending staff in your mindset for bringing new product in, championing products, finding that relationship groove?
Very important. The bud tender can't sell something that they don't know any knowledge on. They have to try every product.
Facts.
They have to try everything, or else they can't sell it. I can sell syrup easily because I know everything about it. I love the syrup. I've tasted it, drink it, I mix it, and I can sell it to my consumer.
Thanks, man.
You know, that's why I love the samples. Give them to me because I'm gonna try everything, every little thing. I want to know how the shake tastes, whether it's a good shake, bad shake, decent shake. I want to do everything because I want to be able to tell as well the bud tender what at least how I liked it. You know, whether they have a different opinion, maybe they smoke way more than I do, and they're gonna give me a different perspective than what I have. I want to understand everything, and understanding and knowledge is gonna be key to being able to do that sale. Like you need that. You need all the information. You can't sell something you've never had, never tasted. You can't give that full perspective. You have to have everything. You can't sell CBD even if you're knowledgeable. You can bypass it to a certain degree, but can you give a real world experience? No, you can't. You have to taste everything. Yeah, so.
And so I'm going to ask you too, and a little follow up on that. You know, patient appreciation days we've mentioned, and do you feel like trainings, like product orientations, are important as well for your staff? I mean, is that relationship driven kind of stuff? You know, the samples and training.
Yeah, it's not samples, training, additional training. Like to change any other the vendors like to just come in and just talk to the bud tenders, kind of just train them as to what the product is.
Yeah, because there's always new people getting hired, you know? There's always new bud tenders coming into the store. So you can't just go, oh, I went to the Americana 9 months ago. I did an education. They're good. You know,
so it's a constant process, a continuous process.
Yeah. I'd say it's every 4 to 6 months. You know, would be like kind of my ideal thing. You know, your key brand partners to come through and do those talks and stuff. And sometimes it's a little tricky. I mean, you know, we have products from all across the state. Some are smaller. You know, they can't always come down or, you know, come up and stuff like that. So I get it. And but yeah, it's the education along with getting the samples goes a long way, you know. And I think there's a responsible way as a retailer to work with your brands, your brand partners in that too. You know, like you're not asking for crazy stuff, not asking for, you know, crazy rosin, you know, full grams for 50 people and stuff like that gets pricey, right? But, you know, like let's have a sesh, like let's come in here and talk about it, let them see it, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
All right, so listen, everybody, we're going to get close to wrapping up the panel production tonight. So I want to open it up to the floor right now, if you gentlemen don't mind. If anyone has some questions right now, we have about 4 minutes we can answer, maybe raise. So right there, why don't you shout out your question? I hope we can hear it. If we can't, we'll have you walk up a little closer.
All right, my question is, how do you gentlemen feel about moving into the NFT and the digital crypto market? And how do you think it would affect?
Can you repeat the question?
How do you...
Not you, Chris. Not the microphone.
Right. Well, the thing is, it's a complicated question, but how do you view the introduction of NFTs into the regulated cannabis space?
No, not only NFT, but also with the cryptocurrency with Joe Biden moving into the whole...
Well, this is a complicated question, but have you guys embraced at all, or is there anything going on right now in your world with NFT? And by the way, cryptocurrency and the technologies for cannabis industry suffered, right? The lack of banking services and stuff. And a lot of people see a future there for our industry.
I get those emails a lot about crypto payment solutions, but not really super into the NFTs. Like I have some friends that dabble, and I've done some stuff. As far as like research goes, I think I really don't know too much to speak on it, but I do know that there's a following, especially for NFTs, but I personally don't know enough to speak on it.
I think really to simplify, you have to think about just the day-to-day logistics of how that would work and what that would look like, right? I think with taxes and all the different license types, it would be tough for me to be like, hey, I'm gonna make a little JPEG of a stone turtle, right? And then like you're gonna bring it into Cookies
I want to buy
Maywood,
something like that, though, bro. I would collect
and
that.
be like,
And then I give you some weed or something.
yeah, you know, like I don't think that's you're gonna tax 27% on the turtle, like, you know what I mean?
Oddly enough, you know, though, I mean,
And that's all, I get pitched on NFTs every day, bro. every day someone's like NFTs.
One
and
of the
I'm
interesting
like,
things that's going to come out of the NFT movement is the creation of smart contracts, where actual POS system type interactions are going to occur, where they're going to have digital applications and stuff. I'm way more PBS. Remember, I told you guys at the beginning of this, right? So wait, we have one more question right here from this young lady. I'm going to give her the microphone because that way you can all hear her question as well.
So I'm a brand ambassador for THC Design. So I was just wondering, is there a right number for PADs at your store? You know? Is there too much as well?
There can never be too much.
I would not be into that necessarily. I think it depends, you know what I'm saying? I know people have different agreements with people, against all the whole stuff about shelving, which certain, other people do. We don't really do it at cookies and stuff, like my store at least. And yeah, I'd say like more close to like once a month, and like come like with a really good deal,
You're once a month and you're like every single week.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
No, well, I'm just horsing around. I would love them every week because it would be free stuff for the consumer. But in all reality, it's going back to that relationship. If I don't need it, then there isn't a reason for it. So back to the relationship, the POS is going to let me know whether it's not selling, it is selling. Then I go back to change, go back to you, go back to anyone. Hey, you know what? It's not selling. Help me out. How can we do this together? How can we push this product out? So that's more of the answer.
Yeah, I think once you get to a certain number of SKUs too, right? Like you have your ones that work, and for lack, why do you need a PAD? If it's selling, why do you need that? People are aware of your product, it's moving. After like 1,000 SKUs and stuff, I don't care who it is. There's gonna be something on your menu that's probably a little slow. Maybe something like a niche product, like wellness product or something, and bring in some PAD for that, or something new launching. But keep your good movers going.
And I'm going to share this. Be aware of the anniversaries and the milestones of the retail venue that you're pitching your product into, and say, hey man, I know that you're coming up on year 4 here in Maywood, right? So we'd love to do a Patient Appreciation Day or the month of 420. You guys have been really good to us this year, so we're going to blow it out with you for the fun celebration that goes on through the month. But listen, everybody, we have something special that is part of the Long Beach Collective Association family business. So right now, I don't know where they're at in the preparation for this, but there is a gentleman by the name of Adam Hijazi, who was a co-founder of the organization that led to the formation of what we're sitting in here today, which is an ever-growing collective association of cannabis professionals in the city of Long Beach, pushing the message forward, not only in the city, the LBC, but throughout the state. So we're going to sing happy birthday to Adam Hijazi.
Oh, where's he at?
Yeah, he might be right here.
Bring him
right,
out.
everybody? And I'm going to get loud, and there might be a cake. And Adam, thank you
Bring his ass
for
out.
being you. Celebrate
my
life
God.
every chance we get. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Adam.
This shit is lit.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, my God. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Adam, and thanks for all the hard work that you do and the team that you've built to help you accomplish great things. Don't tell us. Hey, everyone, I'm going to be his interpreter on that. The massive reduction to a meaningfully relevant reduction in taxes, the excise tax in the state of California on cannabis products. It's egregious.
Yes,
It's
I need
disruptive to the health of our industry, and more importantly, I think that we will see this industry pay long into the future to community benefit. So anyway, once again, everybody, we do this monthly. It's high LBC. It's a best practice environment where we're going to talk about topics like tonight. We're going to do it again in April, and we'll look forward to inviting you all back. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. This is Chris Egger with Charles Change, and George signing off from High LBC. Thanks so much, and be safe, and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.